Alyx again. This week we are talking about neuro abilities and difficulties. So, I have written a transcript again, so I may or may not be looking at the camera this time. So this may get a little rambly, bear with me. So as I said in the intro video, I am bipolar. I am officially diagnosed with Bipolar II Disorder and Generalized Anxiety Disorder. I was diagnosed as bipolar in May of 2009, after what had been probably at least a decade of dealing with what I thought was just depression and teenage angst. My parents, who both happened to be marriage and family therapists, were pretty deeply in denial of the idea that their kid could be bipolar. My dad's initial response when I raised the idea as a possibility was no, you deal with depression and maybe you have ADHD, but you're not bipolar. This was, you know, in spite of the fact that I've always been a very introspective person who knows myself very well. I had not lived with my parents for more than a few months at a time for the last 3 years. They still thought that they knew my brain better than I did. This may have had something to do with the fact that throughout the entirety of my middle school and high school years and into college then, I had never let my parents or most friends, really anybody else, see how serious things sometimes got. So yeah, my parents assumed that I couldn't possibly be bipolar because I was really good at acting more or less neurotypical. Anyway, I knew that my dad was wrong. I knew that I did not have ADHD, that it wasn't just depression that I was dealing with. So, and I was determined to find a name for what I was dealing with because I knew if it had a name, I could address it and deal with it and figure out how to work with it. Whereas when it was just this anomalous thing out there, well, you know, in here, it was harder to process and harder to deal with when I didn't have a name that I could hang on to. So I went to see a psychiatrist. I went in, I told her kind of what had been going on for the past year or so, and explained that, you know, I was an undergrad psych major, so it's possible that I was making it all up, but she agreed with me. She said that bipolar II was probably the correct diagnosis. So, frankly, I don't like the term disorder for the way my brain functions. Yes, I have some unique challenges functioning in society compared to a neurotypical person. But does that make me disordered? Does it mean that I'm broken in some way and therefore need fixing? Is the fact that I take medication to help keep me from flying too far in one direction or the other an indication that there is something inherently wrong with my brain? Part of my identity as queer involves my mental state as well as my gender identity and my sexual and romantic orientation. My brain doesn't function the way your average person's brain does. That doesn't make it bad or broken or disordered or wrong, it just makes it different. Queer. Bipolar is a tricky animal. I am slightly medicated. I take one medication for depression and one as a mood stabilizer, and so the one for depression keeps me from sliding too far in that direction. The mood stabilizer keeps me from thinking I'm Superman, and trying to, you know, fly off buildings or anything like that. I do still have highs and lows, and I wouldn't want things any other way. My highs and lows will make me the creative person that I am, and they make my life a lot more interesting. But they can be hard to deal with. At the moment, I am manic. I won't lie, it's a lot of the time a lot of fun. I like being manic. As long as it doesn't involve panic attacks, then it's not so fun. Or bad financial situations, that's also not so fun. When I'm manic, I typically have more energy, I'm a lot more productive. It's a lot easier for me to be happy, and life is just a lot more exciting. Depression, on the other hand, not fun. It takes gargantuan effort to get out of bed in the morning. Some days just breathing takes up all of the energy that I have. It's worse when I have it's the worst when I have panic attacks when I'm depressed. Everything seems particularly hopeless in those moments. I get through my depressed cycles on the knowledge that it is a temporary state, even if temporary means lasting for several months. I don't always believe here that it will go away. But at my core, I'm a very highly logical person, and so the knowledge up here that yes, it has to end sometime, is enough that it keeps me going and gets me through. So I've tried many times and in many ways to explain what a bipolar brain feels like. The best I can come up with is this. Mania is like dealing with a brain full of bees. It's all buzzing with life and energy and the occasional sting. With depression, the bees are replaced with basilisks, these huge, scary monsters that hide just around the corner and you're never quite sure when they're going to attack. Everything is really foggy and muddled and a little bit terrifying. So, to kind of wrap this up, I started writing this poem a couple of years ago. It's gone through a few incarnations since then, and I think it illustrates my feelings about being a neurologically queer individual pretty well. So it's called Call Me Crazy. Pluck the wings from my back, feather by feather, as you tether me with heavy chains that hobble and asphyxiate, rendering me flightless, cutting off the circulation to my brain in an effort to keep me contained and harmless. Drain the creative blood from my veins, peel the paper skin from my soul and replace it with something thicker. Deaden my senses and forbid me from seeing beauty. It won't occur to you to feel guilty, because after all, you're making me normal. Normal? I don't want to be normal. I won't deny the beauty of this fractured mind, the neural kaleidoscope bursting into 100,000 hues of light and color all rushing madly to the surface. You say crazy like it's a bad thing. Why would I replace the energy of insanity with the quiet dullness of an untroubled mind?